Journal entry 354. I grabbed a book from the apartment we'd been staying in and went alone to the floor above. Went into the level's park and found a nice seat with a view. I ordered any passing person to hunt down and attack the nearest guard or government official one floor above this one, or sabotage something important. I read the book in between all of this. Every now and then, I would hear a gunshot or screaming in panic. I figured this was the easiest way to seed panic. They can't give out anti-scion headbands to everyone after all. I'm sure that this has me sliding down the alignment scale again. I can almost feel Avery's disapproving look on my back. After 4 hours, I wrapped up and headed back into the apartment. While I was causing that distraction, Jason, Austin, and Ian headed back to the food processing center and sabotaged their repair attempts and filled a few containers with food for use back at base since our supply was starting to run low. Journal entry 355. Our electronics detected a Wi-Fi signal. A few minutes later, there was a knock on the door. They found us. Those assholes developed some kind of find Wi-Fi enabled devices spell. There were about 30 of them outside. They demanded our surrender, promised that we wouldn't be hurt, that they wanted us in protective custody for the time being, that they wanted to talk. We didn't have much of a choice, not without undue risk. Jason shut off his iPod and hid both working pistols while we took the house resident as one of us. We surrendered into their custody. We had our weapons taken from us and were all taken to one of the higher levels, a large atrium with a dinner table set up. We were told to have a seat. The guards stayed but kept their weapons ready. A few minutes later, 3 people came out in fancy dress, 2 elves and 1 human. They were wearing those sound headbands, of course. The elves stayed quiet, but the human spoke. He was the son of one of the founding Terrans. He was one of the firstborn in this city and eventually became its immortal leader. We had a long talk over breakfast. Real food for a change. His father and mother had been taken away in the summer of 2017 and thrust into a situation we're all familiar with. There were 6 Terrans total. They had similar experiences, similar adventures, and eventually made their way here to deal with some great evil. The cause of the desert. The death of the evil avatar whose death blighted the region for hundreds of miles turned into a desert. They ran into the tribes and settled with them while they recovered and eventually were worshipped as gods. This group's ambition was to make each kingdom self-sufficient to end the wars, but no one was listening. Here, they would listen, so they built New Paris. It took centuries to get to this point, and it's still being built. From what I gather, this group never stepped down from their power, even after the population became civilized. They got used to the power they had. Understandable. Then they started dying, one at a time, of old age. Lucas declared himself the king, being the only one of the first generation born here that was quote-unquote pure-blooded, and continued building the city in the vision of his parents and their companions. Then he got old. He had a ritual performed. He's a lich of some type. He has some kind of sustaining magic keeping his body alive, or, at the least, alive-looking. So where did it go wrong? He didn't have the knowledge. The city was built from the plans left behind, and when no one knew what else to do, they just lived there and developed an isolationist policy. A few centuries later, another group of Terrans, the church founders, arrived. They were welcomed, but they didn't dump everything. They were taken prisoner and mind-raped by scions for everything. Advancements began. New ideas and new directions to take things, but those ran dry fast enough. They had the church infrastructure to take advantage of now, though, and used it to try to nudge the rest of the continent into developing for them, after which they jumped on it and then try and suppress it afterwards so that they would always stay ahead of the game. The rest of the continent is their R&D lab, but their methods are screwing them over in the long term. Then they lucked out and caught the next group of Terrans a few days after they arrived. I already noted how that turned out. They weren't given a chance. So because we've quote-unquote proven to ourselves, we've been given an option. We could serve under Lucas and live to advance this place, or he'll take it from us by force. I reached out to everyone and got consensus. I leaned forward and told Lucas that Rihanna was a dragon. After she finished killing off all the guards, Rihanna had to withdraw from the fight through the atrium glass roof. She had been injured from the gunfire and spells being shot off. She took the baby and Marika with her. We were launching everything at Lucas, and he was fighting back hard. The entire section was starting to collapse. Jason showed up and shot the elven assistants from behind. They had been doing most of the shielding and counterspelling. We put Lucas down after that. We didn't know where his phylactery was, and it was time to go. We managed to escape into one of the lower levels and have hidden in another apartment for now, while we plan our next move. Now, I'm not sure if Rihanna got out okay with the baby and Marika, but she definitely earned her pay today,